And how can you change? Because Melbourne has a challenge. There's now a challenge. Can Melbourne double its population? And this is a study with our friends, the City of Melbourne, Rob Adams. Could you use the existing corridors to increase density? And actually, this thing about density, if you start to study how dense areas are, even low buildings can be dense. This is the number of people per hectare. And actually, you can deliver density in very human ways, in very nice ways. You know, high densities, European traditional cities, very high densities on the same areas. So how could you change streets? And these are just some studies, how you might, not dramatically, this isn't Singapore or Hong Kong, how you can double the density, triple the density in a way which has a human scale, has a human kind of feeling. So you can do this in a way which doesn't have to be scary and threatening. It can actually be an attractive environment to live in. And actually you can have an architecture which is totally contemporary. And I guess there's this very difficult subject of new urbanists, because I think if you say new urbanism in English, it has this connotation that everything should be classical architecture. We can do totally contemporary architecture, but which reflects the needs of today. And these are some images again from some new buildings in Melbourne. And if there's time, one more. Malmo in Sweden, and this is where I had a very nice conversation with the father and son, Ricardo and Rafael, about what is possible when you build a new place. And this is where we started. People dancing tango in a public space. How is this possible? Malmo was the city in Scandinavia with the highest level of criminality, the biggest problems of immigration. It was a bankrupt city. And how did they get out of this problem? They built wonderful places. And this was very controversial because, you know, they've got problems of unemployment, homelessness, crime on the street. And the socialist mayor says, I'm going to build beautiful places where people want to live, where rich people want to live in our city. So this was kind of, in a way, counterintuitive. But by investing in real estate, which had great public space, which was available for everyone, which would invite people to come, life first, then the spaces and the buildings last. You know, public space, there's the waterfront, but not everybody can live in the waterfront. So on the inside, there's a park. So the people that, you know, live on the other side can have the park. Good public space. You know, this is the view from above. You can see taller buildings on the edge, smaller buildings on the inside. And look at all the color. Look at the variety. So much work for so many architects. And everybody's taste is different. But you know, if you have a city where every building is just 20 meters long, 25 meters long, even if you don't like that building, you only have to walk for 10 seconds and a new building will come along. So it's very nice to walk around here, look at the buildings, and even when it's colder weather, it's still nice to walk around, to use the public space. You know, in the winter, go down there, hang out on the waterfront. Somebody playing a guitar in the water, that makes us feel good, it's a safe place. And this slow human scale, totally contemporary architecture, but it's the scale of Venice. It's the scale of the traditional places we like. You know, places for encounters, you know, where you can meet people in a public space, have a conversation, views out. This amazing mixture of people. What's really a great success of public space, and if you look at the anthropology of it, when you get different people using the space is when it gets really interesting. It's like the theater, where you've got Swedish girls in bikinis. You will get Swedish guys and foreign guys, young guys and old guys hanging out as well, watching people. You know, you'll find here, they're on the water, the guys are showing off, doing dives into the water, showing their muscles. But in the same space, we've got families with small children. We've got grandmothers, we've got big immigrant families with 20 people, posh families with a basket and some chilled white wine, all using the same space. And this is what makes it really great to be a human. As a real estate project, it was very challenging. Every color here is a different developer. And of course, it would be much more rational to have the red zone, the blue zone, the black zone, the yellow zone. Of course, that would be much more efficient, but it doesn't give us such an interesting city. And so, although this was very hard to orchestrate, this was a very, very good result. And the value came later. If it was maybe, I think the total cost, it was about 12% more expensive than standard building. Now these properties sell for 3 times the value of equivalent age properties in Sweden. So that small investment was worth it. And a very simple way of creating difference, you take a grid, and of course we know the grid is rational, rectangles and squares, buildings are square, it gives us square rooms so that our furniture can fit inside. We don't build triangular buildings. But if we shake the grid, we can create a rich diversity of space, which can open up to catch the sun when we want to, or give us shade to protect us from the wind. So we can create a rich variety of space just by shaking the grid. It's still structure, it's just a more complex structure, a complex order. And you can see it here, small footprint, giving us density and diversity. And this idea of how far do you have to walk? 5 minutes walk. Where do you get to? And all of the research tells us when we have this fine-grained structure with many possibilities to take shortcuts, we walk more. So this is all about interconnectivity to encourage us to walk. Spaces that inspire us, invite us, public space, a variety of public space because we're all different, we like different things. And understanding there's a need of private, if you're living in the city, sometimes you need to be totally private. You want privacy, you want to shut out the noises and the smells, all those things. Sometimes you want to be inside. Sometimes you want to kind of be on the edge, to be watching but not really part of it. And sometimes you want to be out there. We need to offer all of those diverse spaces with a good microclimate, and spaces outside, taking care of the rainwater, and understanding that we need to be adaptable because everywhere you go, we want to have ground floor uses. We want to have shops on the ground floor. It's very hard to make business work right from the start. And by having a flexible ground floor, and the system is that all of the ground floors have a higher ceiling, so they're adaptable. So in the future, they can become shops and offices or restaurants. And also the statutes, the legal agreements for the buildings allow for this change of use to happen in the future. And this means that we can spontaneously have all of those businesses, those shops and cafes, which make it so attractive to live in the city. And just the small distance makes it very intimate. This is inside one of my friend's house. You see people coming and going. And while your children are playing just outside, you can actually watch them from the door. You can stand in the kitchen and watch your children play in the street. And this is kind of the dimension of a great place for being a human being. All of the things which make us feel good about our senses. And we can talk about sustainability, and I agree that this word sustainability, we can really question, does it mean anything? But we know there's a thing about economy. We need a stable economy. We know that we have to take care of the environment, and we have to take care of people. So we need this balance of all aspects. We have to think of people, we have to think of the economy, and we have to think of the environment. And when you're talking about real estate, there are 3 rules. You know them? Location, location, location. This is what makes location. You make people places. People want to spend time, people want to live, attractive, all kinds of people. So we can do something which is an economically sensible project, a good investment, which is good for the environment and also good for society. So I hope you'll consider, as we go forward now looking at these adventures around Brasília, that you will consider the human dimension. Thank you very much.
Obrigado, David. Gente, em razão do nosso horário, eu gostaria que a gente não demorasse muito para poder ter um tempo para tirar dúvidas e ouvir perguntas de quem quiser. Então, eu queria sugerir, inclusive, que a gente cortasse o coffee break. Todo mundo de acordo? Então tá bom. Então vou pedir para o pessoal trazer umas cadeiras aqui o mais rápido possível. Lia, Luiz. E eu vou convidar os 4 palestrantes de volta aqui para cima, para que a gente possa pegar perguntas das pessoas.